You are listening to Accents, a radio show for literature, art, and culture. My name is Katerina Stoikova, and my guest today is Tom Eblen. Hi, Tom. How are you?
Great, Katerina. How are you?
Doing well. So, as I said, my guest today is Tom Eblen. He is joining us from the Carnegie Center. He's here to tell us about the latest inductees in the 2021 Kentucky Writers Hall of Fame and the upcoming online ceremony. So please tell us about it, Tom.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we always have a big celebration at the Kentucky Theater downtown with several hundred people, and we're not able to do that this year, of course, because of the pandemic. But we're going to be doing the ceremony online. It'll be on Facebook Live, so it'll be on the Carnegie Center's Facebook page at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. And we have 6 writers we're going to be inducting this year. Our living author is Nikki Finney, the poet, who is very well known. She is from South Carolina and lives there now, but she spent almost 24 years at the University of Kentucky teaching, and she told me in a recent interview that Kentucky is really where she became a writer. It's where, that point in her life where she, discovered her talents, and she kind of credits that to the colleagues she had at UK, people like Gurney Norman and Jane Vance Gentry and Wendell Berry and others, but also just the literary community in Lexington. She said, that she had never lived in a place that valued books so much as Lexington and Kentucky do. And she says, I don't live in a place like that now, but Lexington is that way. That's one of the things she really liked about it. So, but she is very well known for her acceptance speech after she won the National Book Award in 2011. She gave just a fabulous acceptance speech at the ceremony in New York City. And as she was walking off the stage, John Lithgow, the MC, said, we have 2 more winners tonight, and I don't want to intimidate you, but that's the best speech I've ever heard. Best acceptance speech. So yeah, we've told Nikki there's no pressure, on this acceptance speech, but she will be joining us on the Zoom call from South Carolina that evening, and we'll speak for about 15 or 20 minutes. So that should be very exciting. Then we also have 5 deceased inductees, and the first one is John Edgerton, who was originally grew up in Western Kentucky in Trigg County around Cadiz, went to the University of Kentucky. And he was a journalist who wrote 10 books. He lived in Nashville most of his life. He was actually a good friend of mine. I got to know him when I was a journalist covering Tennessee and Kentucky for the Atlanta newspapers back in the 80s. But his 2 best-known books are Southern Food, which is kind of a combination history and social history and cookbook and travel log. And it was one of the first books back in the 1980s that really showcased Southern cuisine, and that led him and some other people to found the Southern Foodways Alliance, which is down at the University of Mississippi. His other big book was called Speak Now Against the Day, and it was kind of a personal history of the South from the time of the New Deal until the Brown versus Board of Education decision in 1954. So it was really about the generation of civil rights leaders before the civil rights movement really began. But it's a fabulous book. Our next inductee is Robert K. Massey, who was born in Lexington, grew up in Versailles before his family moved to Nashville. But he was a Rhodes Scholar and a historian and biographer. And he's best known as the author of histories of the Russian royal family. His book, Nicholas and Alexandra, back in the 60s was a huge bestseller. In fact, I think it's sold about almost 5 million copies and is one of the best-selling historical nonfiction books in many years. He won the Pulitzer Prize for his biography of Peter the Great. He also wrote a really acclaimed book of Catherine the Great. As well as several others. He died just in December 2019 at age 90. But Robert K. Massey was a very influential writer. John Jacob Niles, the ballad collector and balladeer, is also he did many collections of ballads and wrote a lot about traditional music. Um, Niles was from Louisville originally and lived much of his life outside of Lexington. Uh, his music, he went around Appalachia and other areas and collected folk songs and ballads and started recording them and writing about them and popularizing them. And he really helped launch the folk music revival in the 1950s and 60s. Uh, some of his songs were covered by a lot of major artists, and Bob Dylan has mentioned that John Jacob Niles was a major influence on his work. In fact, one of Niles' most famous songs is called "Go Away From My Window," and Bob Dylan used it as the first line in his song "Ain't Me, Babe." And Niles is also well known for a Christmas song, "I Wonder as I Wander," and Sherry Phelps, who's a UK trained opera singer, is going to sing that. We have a video of her singing that for the ceremony. And then the other two deceased inductees are Carolyn Gordon, who was really kind of came of age in the 1920s. She was from Todd County, down same place Robert Penn Warren and Alan Tate were, and she was married to Alan Tate, who was also a famous poet. But Carolyn Gordon was a very well-known short story writer, novelist, literary critic. One of her biggest fans was William Faulkner, but she wrote a lot of prize-winning books back mostly in the 20s and 30s. She and Alan Tate also lived in Paris in the 1920s and became friends with Fitzgerald and Hemingway and many of the other American expatriate poets and writers at that time, who later visited them at their home in Clarksville, Tennessee. But Carolyn Gordon is someone who's not read as often now as she used to be, but was a really significant Southern Renaissance writer. And our last inductee is Albert Stewart, who was from Knott County. He grew up at the Heinemann Settlement School and was really a teacher and mentor. He taught at Morehead State and Alice Lloyd College. He wrote 3 volumes of poetry, but he's really best known also as a mentor and a teacher for Kentucky writers. He was the founder of the what's now called the Appalachian Writers Workshop at Heinemann Settlement School. He also started Appalachian Heritage Magazine, which is now called the Appalachian Review, that Jason Howard edits, but it's kind of a major literary journal. But Albert Stewart is a much beloved character. And so with each of these inductees, the deceased ones, will have another writer to read a few minutes of their work so people get a taste of their work.
This is so exciting.
Yeah, it's a really strong lineup this year, and so we're very fortunate to be able to do this.
Can you tell us something about the process of selecting inductees?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not an easy process. We get we solicit after each year's ceremony. We solicit nominations from the public, and we get a lot of them. And then we take all of those nominations and we save them year after year. So if someone's nominated one year, you don't have to keep nominating them. We keep them in the system. But we research them, look at them, and then we have a committee at the Carnegie Center that's made up of some staff members, some board members. Mayor Linda Gorton's on our committee. A number of writers are on our committee, and we kind of look at the nominations. And we're looking for not only writers of exceptional merit, but kind of a good combination of writers. Each year we want a class in the Hall of Fame that represents kind of the diversity of Kentucky in terms of literary genres, from what parts of the state they're from, race, gender, a lot of other areas. So we want kind of a diverse group every year. And usually we only choose 1 or 2 living inductees. The first few years it was all deceased inductees. But it's a fairly selective process. And then we kind of get a large group of nominees, probably 5 or 6 living ones and maybe 10 or 15 deceased ones, and we send that to the Kentucky Arts Council, and they have a committee that is made up of some of the state's best well-known writers, and they kind of rank them for us, based on their evaluation of merit and things. And then based on their rankings and our analysis, then we kind of make the final selections at the Carnegie Center. We usually announce those around the first of the year. There will be a special section in Kentucky Monthly Magazine that will be out probably this week or next week with a long interview feature that I did with Nikki Finney and biographies of each of the writers that we're inducting this year. You can also read about them in biographies that we put together on the Carnegie Center's website, which is carnegiecenterlex.org. There's a biography and a bibliography of each of them, and also some video resources that are out there, such as Nikki Finney's acceptance speech, some videos of John Edgerton, other people, interviews with Robert Massey. So if you want to learn about these writers, the Carnegie website's a good place to do that.
And last year, Gray Zeitz was inducted not as a writer, but as someone who has been in service.
Yes,
is there anything like that this year? I didn't hear, at least.
No, that was a new award that we don't plan to give every year. It's called the Kentucky Literary Impact Award, and it's for someone who has been of great service to the writing community, the literary community in Kentucky, but not necessarily as a writer. It could be a writer, but it could also be a publisher in Gray's case. He had run Larkspur Press for almost 50 years, and had printed, particularly specialized in Kentucky writers, much like someone else I know. But anyway, so Gray was the first winner of that. But that's something we probably won't give every year. But we have a number of people in mind for the future for that one.
Well, even Sina Jeter-Naslan, who was the live inductee, she could have received both awards because of her tremendous impact and service of literature, not only in Kentucky, but I would say, nationwide.
Yes, absolutely.
With everything she has done.
In her publishing house. Yeah, the
Spalding that she founded, Spalding MFA program, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's because some people don't always fit into neat categories. So with Gray Zeitz, for instance, is a poet, but he probably might maybe make it for his writing, but for all of his other work he did. And so it's always a very subjective process. But we created that with him and a few other people in mind for the future, who have. Most of them have been writers themselves, but they've also kind of done other things that really were important to Kentucky literature.
And we all are going to watch the event on Facebook Live. Will it be recorded for people who are not able to attend live?
Right. Yeah. After, so you can watch it live, or right after that, the video will stay on the Carnegie Facebook page for a week or two, so you can go back and watch it anytime. And then we're going to take that video and edit it a little bit, just to clean it up, because any live event's got pauses and things. And then we'll put that on our YouTube channel. So even if you can't attend the live one, a video of it will be available right after that and perpetually. So that people can watch it.
Lovely. Well, so I have to say that last year's induction was my second favorite. I had a 10-year anniversary that was important to me. But my second favorite event in the whole year of 2020, it was just fabulous to see, probably about 200 or 300 writers, most of them people that I know, love, respect. I gave so many hugs that night. I probably gave more hugs that night than probably in 2 years that would follow. So why I'm saying that is because I'm so excited about Nikki Finney. Do you guys think that at some point in the future you will bring her for a for a special meeting with her adoring audience to celebrate in person her induction.
Yes, and we, and of course, we'd love to have Nikki come back anytime she can. She's a pretty busy person, but yes, we actually thought about perhaps delaying the ceremony for a few months, but with COVID, it seems like you think it'll be 2 months and it's 4 months or 6
Right.
months, and we just didn't want to lose momentum, so we decided to go ahead and do an online ceremony. But yes, we have thought about depending on her schedule to try to do a special event with her because she actually wrote one of her books in the Carnegie Center. Her poetry
I'm
collection,
sure.
Rice, was
Yeah.
written in the little study carrels. In fact, those little cubbies that we rent out to writers are called the Nikki Finney cubbies because she told me she wrote that entire book in there, kind of every morning before. So she had a long history with the Carnegie Center. Was featured in the Kentucky Great Writers series many times, and so we would love to have her back, and we hope to do that once things are safe to be out. And of course, we hope to do next year's back at the Kentucky Theater, hoping that that's open.
Thank you, Tom. Tell us again when and what time and where should we watch live the event?
Okay, it's going to be this Wednesday, January 27th at 7 p.m. And you can watch the video. The live video will be on the Carnegie Center's Facebook page. You don't need a Facebook account. You can just go to, just if you go on and go on Facebook, look for Carnegie Center, and it'll be on the top of that page then. And we'll be there for a week or two afterwards, and then on YouTube.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right. Well, thank you for having us.